Very few world leaders have a more unenviable job than Argentina's new president, Javier Milei. Argentina was once one of the world's most prosperous economies, but decades of economic crises have drastically altered that. Last year, a new radical government led by Milei was elected. Milei, known for his fiery campaign style and chainsaw symbol, ran on a brutally honest message. Argentina, after years of mismanagement, was no longer a wealthy country and needed to stop living beyond its means if it was ever going to recover. For years, the country had been relying on debt to maintain a high standard of living, but its outdated and inefficient industries could no longer support this. The solution? Major cuts to government programs, benefits, and subsidies, tax hikes, and the privatization of many public services. The immediate effect was a sharp decline in living standards for most Argentinians. Despite the pain, Milei's plan gained traction because it offered hope that these tough measures might finally end the cycle of economic decline and set the stage for a real recovery. A year into these radical changes, the big question is it working? The country's economic history has been a roller coaster. From being a top destination for foreign investment in the 20th century to enduring military juntas and chaotic economic policies, Argentina has faced repeated economic collapses. Yet, it has managed to recover multiple times. However, each so-called recovery has made the economy more vulnerable, leaving the country with a reputation for chronic instability. A major factor behind Argentina's repeated economic failures has been its government's tendency to promise unreasonably high living standards, backed by borrowing without a clear plan for repayment. This approach has led to a series of economic bubbles, high inflation, devaluation of the currency, and a complete loss of the country's competitive edge in the global market. At one point, Argentinians started using US dollars for everyday transactions due to the instability of their own currency. To cope with this, the government resorted to massive loans, most notably from the IMF, which only worsened the situation. For decades, elections in Argentina were won by promising to maintain the country's high standard of living, even though it was financially unsustainable. As debt piled up and the economy stagnated, this approach led to hyperinflation and multiple bankruptcies. But when inflation surged to around 200% and protests broke out, many Argentinians finally became open to Milei's radical message. This is going to hurt. Milei's political rise was unconventional. His brash, controversial style, which included insulting opponents and criticizing government spending on various platforms, led to his reputation as an eccentric. Some viewed him as an unhinged figure, while others saw him as the necessary force to break Argentina's economic malaise. His background in economics, however, cannot be dismissed. He taught economics for over 2 decades and became well known for his critiques of Argentina's economic policies, particularly the government's excessive spending and waste. By 2016, Milei had become a vocal critic of Argentina's financial mismanagement. The country had been spending beyond its means, offering unsustainable subsidies and bloated government salaries. As the country slipped further into debt, it became clear that the status quo was no longer tenable. It's this reality that Milei capitalized on during his campaign. His radical solution was to implement deep austerity, privatization, and deregulation. Upon taking office, Milei wasted no time. On day one, he signed a decree to slash government positions, merging 18 cabinet ministries into just 9. This streamlined approach was designed to reduce bureaucratic waste and promote more efficient governance. He also began privatizing key sectors of the economy, arguing that the private sector could stimulate competition and growth in ways the state could not. So far, the results have been mixed but promising. Government spending is down, tax revenues are up, and inflation has decreased significantly. Perhaps the most daring part of Milei's plan, though, is his push for dollarization, phasing out the Argentine peso and adopting the US dollar as the national currency. This would make Argentina the largest economy in the world to dollarize. And while the idea is controversial, it's not without precedent. Several smaller economies already use the US dollar, and many economists, including prominent figures like Steve Hanke and John Cochrane, support the idea. Dollarization would eliminate Argentina's ability to print its own money, forcing the government to adopt stricter fiscal discipline. The idea is that without the ability to print pesos, Argentina would finally have to live within its means, bringing long-term stability. However, dollarization comes with significant risks. If the US economy is booming, but Argentina's is struggling, the country could face higher interest rates than it needs. But Milei and his supporters argue that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. However, if Milei is ousted too soon, all his efforts could be undone, and Argentina could slip back into its old, unsustainable ways. The situation in Argentina is a stark reminder that there are no quick fixes for deeply entrenched economic problems. For the country to succeed, it will need time. Time for Milei's policies to take root and for industries to regain their competitiveness. Radical measures may be the only way to break the cycle, but they require patience and perseverance from both the government and the public.